pack on pages 6 to 8 of the addendum report. Can I invite the officer who will consider the report to introduce himself? You may make your presentation.
Sure, thank you, Chair. My name is Glenn Rowan. I'm a team leader in the Fast Track Validation team in the Planning Department, and I'm the case officer for this application. Just share my screen quickly. Okay. Can everyone see my screen? Is that okay?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. So as you can see here, the application itself is for the construction of 2 new towers within the Rennie estate. One would be 12 stories and one would be 5 stories containing 49 new units. These would all be for social rent. The larger block would contain 40 units and the smaller 5-story block would contain 9. There'd also be associated cycle parking, refuse storage, amenity area, play spaces, and wider enhancements to the Rennie estate itself through landscaping. As in last application, I'll just briefly touch on the addendum first. So in the addendum, the main things the 3 things we included were a clarification on a bus contribution that was sought by the GLA and TfL. That was for £132,000 and £200, or £2,700 per unit. This has been agreed by the applicant and the GLA and TfL to mitigate any impact on the local bus network as a result of the increase in units. There's also a clarification of the landscaping condition to ensure the replacement of a tree that will be lost through the development. And finally, a compliance condition has been added to secure obscure glazing on some of the northern facing windows, just to mitigate a small privacy risk to the existing tower block Threwick House. Just quickly to give an overview of the site, as you can see here, the wider Rennie estate covers the entire site, and then you have these sites within the wider site. Most of these are the landscaping areas, and as we can see here, this is the development site for the new units. This is on Gallywall Road. Just to give a bit of context to the site itself, where the development would occur, as you can see, the primary urban form is made up by the existing blocks of the Rennie estate. Those are approximately 12, 13 stories tall, and as we'll see in a second, the new blocks are designed to match both the taller buildings and the smaller buildings. The uses surrounding the area, as you can see to the north of the site, there is the Gallywall Trading Estate with some industrial uses. You can also see in the bottom of the photo there is Gallywall Primary School, and there's another number of other medium to low density residential units in the sort of immediate vicinity of the site. The development itself, as I've already touched on, is for 2 new residential blocks with 49 units for social rent. 24 of these would be family-sized units, so that's 3 bed plus, or that would equate to 12 of the units in total. The offer would also include 195 square metres of new children's play space, and an existing play space on the estate would also be expanded by 150 square metres. We also have 280 square metres communal amenity space, which is independent of the children's play space. So that's 280 on top of that 195. And as I said, wider landscaping enhancements to the Rennie estate. And that includes wildflower planting and planting for pollinating insects as well. So just to give a bit of detail on the new blocks, as you can see in terms of height, the taller block would extend to a maximum of 41.9 metres, which is a little bit over the existing tower blocks within the Rennie estate, but broadly matches their height. And the smaller block then responds to some of the smaller buildings in both the local area and within the Rennie estate, coming up to a height of 19.5 metres. As you can see, there's the 2 blocks next to each other. You'll notice the taller block incorporates a setback from in the upper bit. This is to reduce the sort of visual bulk of that quite large building. As we come to some of the 3Ds and renders, you'll notice it for a tall building, it doesn't have a great or huge impact on the road. It's quite well designed in that respect. You'll also notice projecting balconies are incorporated at the lower level with inset balconies at the higher level, again to reduce that sort of visual bulk and mass of the development. This is a view from inside the Rennie estate, so this is how existing residents would see it as they were coming out. As you can see, it's effectively a modern update to sort of classical council architecture. In terms of materials, as you've probably seen from the drawings already in the diagrams, it's largely composed of brick with 2 different variations at both the base to give it a sort of lighter feel, and a lighter brick than at the top. And then the balconies would be a mixture of brick and metal railing, again to reduce sort of the weight of those hanging balconies. In terms of the quality of accommodation, the units are all either dual or triple aspect. They generally meet or exceed the residential design standards in terms of room sizes and unit sizes, and each unit would benefit from at least 10 square meters of private amenity space. So again, it's compliant in terms of its private amenity space offer. As discussed, a good amount of play space is proposed. There's 195 new. This would be for children aged 0 to 4, so smaller kids. The 150 square meters is anticipated to meet slightly older children, again 4 to about 10. And then for older kids, this would be encapsulated within, the offer for them would be encapsulated within the wider amenity area proposed, that 280 I mentioned earlier on. In terms of objections, we received 5 comments. That includes 4 objections and 1 neutral comment. In terms of the objections, one of them was about the height of the proposed, or sorry, a number of them were about the height of the proposed blocks with the scale and massing, and I briefly discussed that and can go back to it if anyone would like. Daylight sunlight impacts, just to touch on that briefly, a daylight sunlight assessment was included within the submission documents. What it found was that the vast majority of windows would not see a significant impact in line with BRE guidance. It wouldn't see a proportional BSC reduction of 20% or more. And where there would be a reduction of 20% or more, windows which experience that still retain a VSC of above 20%, which is quite good in an urban context. So again, we're satisfied that the impact of daylight sunlight is relatively minimal and to an acceptable degree, particularly given the wider benefits of the scheme and those 49 new council halls we provided. Overshadowing was also brought up by some of these objections, but the overshadowing report indicated that there wouldn't be any significant overshadowing, and that includes to the nature park, which is to the east of the proposal. Finally, there's concerns about impact on the local transport network and specifically the bus network. As I mentioned, in consultation with TfL and the GLA through their stage 1, we've secured, there's been payments secured for enhancements to the local bus network. So that's considered to be directly addressed by that. And just in terms of sort of car parking and that, there would be 8 car parking spaces or 10 car parking spaces taken up by the new development. However, these would be relocated within the estate, and that includes two blue badges for residents who need those. And again, it's not considered to be new car parking; it's just relocation of existing, so there wouldn't really be an impact of the provision of those. And that's basically it, and all sort of the key issues covered. So I'd open it up to any questions at that point if anyone has them.
Thank you very much indeed. Are there any questions? I see Councillor Livingstone first of all.
Thank you. Yes, no, thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to explore this new issue that's been raised about the contribution towards the bus network, because TfL has a habit of getting contributions from Southwark for improved bus services without necessarily delivering them. So I wanted to explore whether the £132,300 that we're committing ourselves to, or sorry, that the council would be committing itself to if this was agreed, whether that is linked to a specific bus service improvement. I'm assuming it's not, but I might be wrong. But if it's not, could we ensure that as part of the condition for this, for the payment to TfL, is that we recover that amount from TfL if there is any reduction to bus services along Gallywall Road in, say, within the next 5 years?
Just on,
I think it's outrageous if developments have to pay towards TfL for improved bus services if bus services are then reduced.
Just on the, if it goes to a specific bus network, I'm not entirely sure on that point. I might pass to Alex and his experience of these sorts of things. And in terms of the clause we can put into the legal agreement about reclaiming the funds, I would have to ask Margaret if that's something we could consider. Fine,
thank you. Alex, do you want any initial comments first of all? I can't see Alex, of course.
We seem to have lost Alex.
Yes. Rightio. If I may, forgive me, I want to forestall some of this conversation. So, of course, the requirement to make a contribution to the bus network, can I just clarify with you, Glenn, is that a requirement because the size and location of the development, or is it a sort of voluntary contribution that we've asked the applicant to make?
No, it's not a voluntary contribution. That came as a request from the GLA and TfL as part of their stage 1 report. And as you mentioned there, it's based on the size of the development and the impact these new units will have.
Right.
But it was also picked up through the public consultation. What I would say is Section 106 is designed to mitigate local impacts. So I would anticipate
Yes.
it would go towards those local bus services, because that's what, that's why it's been asked for. That's what it's designed to mitigate against. So again, unfortunately, Alex is determined to give it a bit more detail. But that's what.
Right. Okay. In that case, if I may, Councillor Livingstone, I'm not going to pursue that one right now, because if I'd been forewarned, I would have insisted that a representative from TfL are here, because the accounting for monies that we authorise is, again, very similar to the earlier discussion on SIL. I believe is sound, but we don't have a representative of TfL here presently, and I know this will be one of those that will remain unanswered, and I don't want to get bogged down with it if I can. But I believe it's an interesting one, which I think we need to take up at another place. But the principle that a development in this area will make contribution to transport improvements and services is one that is long established. What TfL actually does with the money is another order of responsibility, and I'm not sure in this committee we're able to resolve it, you see. Not without TfL being present or Alex being present.
Sorry, Chair, can I just ask then maybe that the council's legal officers explore this issue? Because I think if the council, as it would be in this case, or indeed any applicant, is having to make, as part of planning conditions, a contribution to TfL for a purpose, that there need to be some assurances to the authority that that's the purpose that they are being spent on, rather than has happened, say, perhaps on the Old Kent Road, where in fact exactly the opposite has happened. There's been a deterioration of service despite contributions being made.
Right here. Margaret, you would make any comment on this?
I think the comment I would make is just from experience of drafting these obligations on Old Kent Road schemes, is that the council asks for a methodology review to be included as part of the obligation, so that there is a requirement for TfL to produce some evidence of the level of usage that's required. I mean, I suggest we explore some of these issues outside of committee, but just to say that TfL's view is that they let the contracts on a 5-year basis, and that therefore they're incurring costs up front. Council always asks to see some evidence that the level of monies being required are actually evidence.
So if I may, thank you, Mark. So as you understand, so it's an internal one which we need to. It may well be necessary at some point in a future committee meeting to review how this happened to them, and to be satisfied that these monies are being used in ways that we would expect it. Because clearly it's an internal matter at the moment, but it should really become public if the monies are not being allocated or being used, and we are suffering a reduced service. Someone should be accountable. 100% agree with you. I know we can't handle it today, though. Okay, thank you. I'm going to move on to Councillor Whittam.
Yeah, just a quickie. Under paragraph 82 about water resources and flood risk.
Could you repeat the paragraph number, Councillor?
82. That just talks about flood risk. It doesn't talk about water resources at all. And I know the Rennie estate has been particularly plagued by poor water pressure and people having to have pumps installed in the upper floors. Has any objection been received by Thames Water? It doesn't appear to be. And have discussions been held with Thames Water that they can adequately provide enough water for these new blocks?
Okay. It would have been useful. That one's a good example of question in advance would be very helpful. But if officers are able to respond,
yeah, I can take that,
yes,
Chair.
okay.
Yeah, Thames Water were consulted as part of this application, and they didn't raise any objections with the proposal and didn't raise any in terms of difficulty in servicing the site. So I don't anticipate that to be an issue. Although I appreciate there may be existing problems on the Rennie estate with some of the older blocks, but I think that's a separate issue to the new development.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you for your response. In that case, if I may, I would like to move forward. I'm not sure.
Chair, apologies. Alex is just rejoining the meeting now in case you wanted to ask a question.
Oh well. I'm not proposing to go back over that one, if I may. I want to move forward. I'm conscious that we want to close the meeting at an agreed time. But welcome, Alex. Welcome. Can I just welcome? I see there's a digital hand. I don't recognise the name. Michael Facey. That's a resident, I'm assuming. Is that right?
I would assume so, Chair.
I'm sorry?
Yes, Chair.
It's a resident, is it? Right, okay. If you could put your digital hands down, we're not going to take questions outside committee. Thank you. Now, I note that there are no registered objectors to the application, and I'm assuming that there are no members who wish to object in the meeting at this stage. I will therefore move on to the applicant or applicant agent present, and I believe we have Andrew Bacon from FBM Architects. Is that right?
Yes, Chair. Good afternoon.
Very good. And just to be quite clear, do you have other colleagues present? I note here Tim Bostridge and Janet Goodyear.
Yes, that's correct. There's Janet Faguela, who's an officer in Southwark, and also Tim, both officers at Southwark, who can I'll help answer any questions should members have any specific questions they can address.
So I'm not following that. Both, you said officers, or from your Southwark offices, you mean?
Sorry, Chair, they're the applicant. London Borough of Southwark is the applicant. So
forgive me.
Agent, Andrew Bacon,
both right. Indeed. Right, making sure I've got that right. Thank you. That's fine. In that case, can I invite you, please, again, for purpose of our meeting, to reintroduce yourself and the organisation that you work for. Once you've done that, I'll give you 3 minutes to make your presentation.
Thank you, Chair. So my name is Andrew Bacon. I'm a director of Fraser Brown McKenna Architects, speaking on behalf of the applicant in support of his application.
Very good. And you may begin your presentation now, Andrew.
Thank you, Chair and Planning Committee members. So this proposal on the Rennie estate is a significant contribution to the Council's target of providing new affordable homes across the borough, but it's also very important for the local people of the Rennie estate who live in the immediate area and have contributed to its design. In developing the proposals before you, we've worked closely with your planning and urban design officers, and we are pleased to have their support for this scheme. We've also worked with other key stakeholders within the council on more technical aspects of it. We have worked extensively with the local community through meetings with the TNRA, held public drop-in events, and had a series of focused project group meetings, formed of local people, with ward councillors contributing to those discussions and design development. As a result, the scheme has evolved to the scheme presented today, especially in relation to the extensive landscaping work proposed throughout the estate. New play space is provided as part of the development, that will be accessible for all local people. A range and type of spaces spread across the estate are proposed to cater for all age groups. So it's a real improvement and benefit for not just new residents, but for the existing residents. We've followed a design-led approach and worked hard to ensure the scale and character of the proposed buildings respond to the existing context, which is varied in terms of height, scale, and appearance. And I'd just like to draw attention that this scheme of 49 units is a great achievement if you give permission, in that 75% of the units are dual aspect, 25% are triple aspect. All living rooms have dual aspect, all units have large private amenity space. The total number of family units exceeds policy. We provide 4-bedroom units within that, and 10% are wheelchair accessible. The development also utilises a high performance, high quality brick-clad building fabric, biodiverse roofs, air source heat pumps and other energy efficient measures to exceed Southwark and GLA policy requirements in its 62% carbon emission saving over Part L of the building regs. To summarise, we have sought to maximise the number of homes on this site whilst ensuring the highest design standards are achieved and that it positively contributes to the surrounding area whilst minimising any impact upon neighbouring properties. We therefore hope you agree the recommendation of planning officers to approve the scheme today. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. In 2.5 minutes, thank you. Are there questions from committee members? Are there questions from committee members? If not, Councillor Bryan, yes, go ahead.
Can I just ask what the budget is, what it costs to build a building of this size?
I might defer that question to the applicant, if I may, in terms of what the latest cost expenditure is estimated.
Forgive me, I'm not sure it's a planning related question, Councillor Bryan.
Only insofar as the tenure of the building, that's all. Sorry.
What's your question in regards to?
I thought it might be just a really quick answer. I didn't want to take up time on it.
Okay.
Okay, we don't have that information by the sounds of it, so don't worry.
No, okay. All right, thank you. Are there other questions from committee? In that case, then that's fine. Thank you very much, Andrew, for your presentation and response to committee questions. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Now then, as far as I'm aware, there are no registered supporters. Am I right in saying that, Gerald?
No supporters have registered, Chair. No.
No supporters registered. And if I note that there's some chat in the box here. I think it's important. I just said this point before I go on to the ward councillors that all presenters to a planning committee meetings are given the opportunity to register that they wish to present by 5 p.m. the previous evening, just so that we can prepare ourselves. So if you fail to meet the deadline, it is unlikely that I would extend the invitation to you to speak at the committee.
Chair, at the briefing, I did ask if it would be possible for a resident to be present.
Yes, indeed.
Obviously, correct procedure hasn't been followed, but maybe we could make an exception.
Well, I'm sorry. Again, I'm emphasising. Forgive me. I'm emphasising that by 5 p.m. As I said on the previous application, that I really want to ensure that those rules are adhered to, so that these meetings can flow well. So I've not received an invitation request by that time, notwithstanding your comments there, Councillor Bryan, but I've not received that, and for that reason I'm not able to take contributions unless there are other matters to be raised. I'm not proposing to do that. Councillor Livingstone.
Chair, I was going to raise a similar point, because I know I've no idea whether the local residents on the chat are supporting or opposing the proposal, but it does feel to me as if there are people that live very close to the site and wish to make a comment, whether that's in support or opposition, that notwithstanding that, as you say, the procedure hasn't been followed, that the opportunity ought to be there so that the committee can at least understand what issues they wish to raise, and so whether it might be possible within the chat or some other way of clarifying whether those residents are speaking in opposition or support.
Chair, sorry, Chair. I did ask Mr. Facey in the chat which capacity he'd like to speak in, but he has not responded to me.
I've noticed that as well. What I'm absolutely want to encourage resident involvement in our committees meetings. The rules are set out and they've made plainly clear. I note that resident hasn't indicated for or against the application. I'm not intended to take further contributions outside of those who've registered on this occasion, but I want to emphasise that at 5 p.m. the previous evening, please, would those who wish to contribute to planning committee meetings, would they indicate that they wish to do so, so that we can ensure that we've adequately planned for their contribution. Now, I know that Mr. Facey has commented, it's not for or against, just a question. As a former chair, I would always suggest that where a resident wishes to raise a question and we have the ward councillors present, that maybe that question could be directed to the ward councillor. And I note on this occasion that the ward councillor, all councillors are possibly present, and I've noted on my notice here, Councillor Lamb and Councillor Pollock and Councillor Werner. I don't know if they are in the meeting, and so I would possibly encourage Mr. Facey to make direct contact with the ward councillors now, if they wish their question to be raised by the ward councillor. Okay. So I'm going to proceed with the meeting. And if I may encourage Mr. Facey to make contact with the ward councillors. So now, if I may, I will now move on. If there are no registered supporters, to move to the ward councillors. Can I just double check first of all? I see Councillor Pollock and Councillor Lamb. Is Councillor Werner here as well, or just yourselves, first of all?
I'm present, Chair.
Councillor Lamb and Councillor Pollock, are you intend to speak as well?
Yeah.
Excellent. And I assume you're going to split the time between you evenly, I assume?
Do we have only 3 minutes, Chair? Between
forgive me. I'll explain the procedure.
I think
you have 3 minutes.
I think I'll speak on our behalf, and Sonny will pick up anything that I forget, and we can pick up things and questions after as well. That's okay.
So forgive me, Councillor Pollock. So you'll do the 3 minutes, will you?
Hopefully less, but yeah.
Right. In that case, just for purposes of the minutes and public recording, can I ask you both to introduce yourself, who you are and the ward that you represent, first of all? Councillor Pollock, I'm going to go first.
I'm Councillor Leo Pollack. I'm the ward councillor for South Bermondsey.
Councillor Lamb.
Oh, and I'm Councillor Sonny Lamb, ward councillor. Thank you.
Very good. In that case, in Councillor Pollock, you have 3 minutes. You may start now.
Thank you, Councillor Seaton, and thank you also to Michael and Sarah and other people from the Reading Estate who joined this meeting. I sent a notice, it's my fault, I sent a notice to them just a few minutes ago, just to make sure they were aware that this was coming through the planning committee. Just on this application, I want to, I hope this will be received by you as one of the most virtuous planning applications you'll ever see at your committee. We're proposing here to bring forward 49 secure tenancy, social rent, brand new council homes, prioritised for local people, beautifully designed with generous and rational layouts, new play areas for toddlers, new play areas for older children, a new outdoor gym, new growing plots and allotments, new landscaping throughout the estate, and not to mention also 88 secure new bike storage spaces, as well as a significant carbon emission saving over the building regulations. There's a lot of public benefit here, and this is a true expand and enrich approach to a council estate. I should emphasise as well that what you're seeing in front of you is the product of a huge amount of resident influence in the design process. Several resident steering group meetings, workshops, walkabouts. Andrew Baker made reference to some of it, but from so many of the details, from the massing to the layout, the configuration, the play spaces that you see, the landscaping detail has the fingerprints of residents all over it. So I just encourage you all really to get behind this application. I would just want to quickly comment as well on some 2 or 3 little issues that you might be able to influence in your conditions. Not least the one that Councillor Livingstone very helpfully raised. I know that there's things to be picked up separately there in relation to where the bus improvement funding would go to, but obviously if there is a way of earmarking that for improvements to the bus connections to the Blue, particularly to create that direct connection to the city and the West End, which isn't there at the minute, that would be appreciated. There's also a small carbon offset sum as well. We've got a couple of ideas about how that might be earmarked as well in terms of promoting secure bike storage for other residents on the estate, not just those who are moving into the new homes. One other point as well is if you're at all minded to help speed this up when it goes through the GLA, I wouldn't discourage you from bringing forward some of the deadline dates for their GLA Stage 2 report, but I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much indeed, Councillor Pollock. Question from the committee, first of all, to all councillors present. Hopefully you know how to contact them. I can see your face, but do you know how to contact your councillors? No.
Councillor Seaton, so I'm conscious that the format of this is normally we present something and you ask questions. Michael's sending questions through to me, some of which I'll be able to answer here and now, but I might, if we can't flip the format sufficiently to answer them in this setting, I'll follow them up with Michael and others.
Very good, very good. In that case, then Councillor O'Brien.
I was just going to ask if Councillor Lamb had anything to add, but now that Councillor Pollock's, I'm not sure if Councillor Pollock should be adding to it, but between the two of you, is there any more information that you want to pass on to the committee?
Yes, okay, thank you. Chair, may I speak, please, Chair?
Yes, you could.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I mean, I'm in full support of the application, and to be honest, I think it has been exemplary in the way the officers have consulted the local residents, because I participated in some of the consultation processes as well. Of course, if I would have expected Mr. Facey to actually send any concerns or question they had through myself or any of my colleagues. At the same time, I can understand sometimes something comes up at the last minute. I just want to, to ask questions on that. Of course, if he sends his question to me, I'll be very happy to, to ask it on his behalf. But generally, yes, I'm full support of the application. And of course, what I will also suggest is, because I realize there might have been some modification to, to the application in respect of some of the feedback they got from the resident during the consultation process. So therefore, if there's a way the officers can then feed back to the residents, most especially Mr. Facey and all that, I think that'd be very useful in order to make sure that they are aware that we are listening to their concerns and their suggestions, and all these have been taken on board. But one question I want to quickly ask is this, Chair, if you permit me, which is one of the questions asked by some of the local residents. We use social rent very constantly, but some of them have different interpretation of what social rent is. And the only language they understand, if I believe, is it council rent? Because when you say council rent, it's more understandable than social rent, because they know social rent is always 80% of the market, and they're afraid of that, especially borrowing from what they learned from what they heard about what happened in Peckham. So they are afraid of that. And these are questions I've been hearing from everybody. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. The question is, the rents being offered here are social rent, and are they council social rent? This is the council development. I suppose we've got the Councillor Pollock here by chance. Yes, go ahead. I wouldn't normally ask you to respond to that question from your colleague. I would go over to the officer, Glenn might want to make a comment. one assumes that they are at council rent levels. According to report, it is.
All 49 of them are.
Absolutely. You shouldn't really be answering the question, Councillor Pollock. You're quite right.
Okay. Sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. It's okay. All righty. Are there further questions from the committee, first of all, to councillors? In that case, thank you very much, Councillor Pollock, thank Councillor Lamb for your presentation and indeed responses to committee's questions. Thank you very much indeed. Committee members, are there outstanding matters that we should debate at this point? Are there any outstanding matters? And are you therefore content if I move to a resolution? Are you content?
Agreed, Chair.
Thank you very much. In that case, then I will do so. And the resolution is as follows. I'd like to move that we adopt the officer's recommendations set out in paragraph 1 and 2 of the report and pages 212 of the agenda pack. That planning permission be granted subject to condition to unilaterally undertaking and referral to the GLA for a stage 2 report. That if a unilateral undertaking is not completed by the 31st of March 2021, the Director of Planning be authorised to refuse planning permission if appropriate for the reason detailed in paragraph 98 of the report. Okay. Does any member wish to second that motion?
I would, Chair.
Very good. Thank you.
Wasn't there something we were supposed to add about the TfL thing? The bus thing?
Yeah.
I think we can pick that up outside, given the advice that we've had from lawyers. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thank you. By the way, that's absolutely right, and we are definitely going to follow through on that. We should make sure we are gaining value for money. Now, I'll now move to the formal vote, and of course, I'll begin with the Vice Chair and the members to confirm of you for, against, abstain the application. Councillor Morell, are you for, against, abstain, please?
I'm for, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Livingstone, for, against, abstain.
For, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor O'Brien, for, against, abstain.
For, Chair.
Councillor Whitehead, for, against, abstain.
For, Chair.
Councillor Wickham, for, against, abstain.
For, Chair.
Councillor Williams, for, against, abstain.
For, Chair.
And I'm Councillor Martin Seaton, and I'm for the application. And I just note for the record that Councillor Sohn has had to leave the meeting, which is why I've not called Councillor Sohn. Okay. And the motion is carried unanimously. And I want to thank all contributors to today's meeting. We've completed the meeting at, I know Councillor Williams will be quite content, and indeed